What's up everybody, Micah here. In this course we're going to go over how to use ArcGIS Insights, which is a tool to visualize geospatial data in a variety of different ways. So in this course we're going to go over the basics and some of the intermediate ways to use Insights. And what we're going to do is we're going to create workbooks, maps, charts, graphs, visualizations of data that can show useful things to our customers or ourselves. And we're eventually going to break down how to share that work out. So in the first video, we're going to break into some examples of work we're going to create, and we're going to move forward from there. So I'm happy to have you here for the course, and I'll see you in the next video. So just to give you guys a quick overview of what ArcGIS Insights is, this company called Esri, they have a software platform where you can take data sets for geospatial data, or really kind of any data that you want, depending on what you want to visualize. If you're going to visualize it geospatially, you're going to need some sort of location data, like an address or some coordinates or something like that. But you can take this software and you can create visuals in terms of charts, in terms of spatial analysis and trends, and you can take all that stuff, crunch it down inside of Insights, and then deliver a product where somebody can actually go and interact with a application that can show them that data. So that could be business data, it could be government data, it could be a million different just marketing data. There's all sorts of different ways you could do that. So the steps we're gonna go forward with this. We're gonna find some data, and we're gonna source that, and we're gonna bring it in, and then we're going to look and see if we can find any value in our data set, which generally, somebody, customer or otherwise, is going to ask you for that. And then we're going to display our work in a aesthetically pleasing way, and that's going to be what we do in this course. So I'm going to actually show you an example of a dashboard where you can do that. So I'm going to crunch it down just a little bit here. And so this right here, this is air pollution in Canada, and something you can do, you can go and click on certain industries, like this one is coal mining, and this has a incredibly high level of air pollution. And over here is copper ore, and then we'll click on this like lower one. This is iron and steel mills, doesn't have that much. We're gonna make charts, and we're gonna visualize the data out there, and we're gonna show you how to make a dashboard like this so that somebody, an end user, can actually interact with your data and use this. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that, and I'll see you in the next video. So when you get into sourcing data for this class, it's going to be very important for you to understand what type of data will work for this. So what I'm going to tell you to do is you can definitely use my example data, which I'll try to put up somewhere for you, or what I would highly encourage you to do is go search for your own data set. And one place that you can do that is this place called data.world, but there's a lot of other places that you can go and get data, but this is a good one. They have a lot of different sources of data sets that you can go grab. So this right here, this is just, I look for crops because I'm using a agriculture based data set to use. It got crop production in Tajikistan, they've got crop vulnerability, they got all sorts of different data sets, and these generally have some sort of location data tagged to the data set. So let me actually show you this right here, and this is actually just an Excel spreadsheet. This is when you download this data, you're probably going to want either a CSV format or you're going to want a Excel format, which then you can easily turn into a CSV. So when I download this data set, what I did was, for testing purposes and for the the purpose of not using too much gas inside the the Esri portal, if you're using like software as a service, right? If you have credits for your company's account, what you're going to want to do is just use a small data set to test out things, and when you actually get into visualizing the big data sets, that's when you can really pull the trigger on that stuff. But when we're looking through this, we can see we've got some locations, these are countries, and we have some crop types, and we have like a couple different other date related data points in here, which means that we can do some like time filtering, and we can show like when those crops were like planted and when they were harvested. So that's really good. But when we display things out on a map, we're going to want to look for our lat longs. These are going to be our coordinates right here, and that is this is going to be a good data set to use, right? So once I've looked at this data and I've said, okay, this is a good data set to use because it has, time, locations, it has the coordinates in there. It's a pretty rich data set with a lot of columns that I can, manipulate a bunch of different ways. This is going to be a good data set for us to start doing some things inside ArcGIS Insights to try and pull some more things out of it, because when you're looking at it right here, it's just not very pleasing. It actually kind of gets a little bit blurry if you just move it around, right? So you're going to need to make some sort of charts or some sort of visualizations inside of this to get it to work. So that's where we're gonna go with the Insights. So yeah, definitely sign up, get an account on data.world, or just go and Google just geospatial data or spatial data and look for like a .gov source. Is probably going to be a good source for you, and try to get that and chop out some of the rows. What you're going to want to do is just go down and then just select all the rows and just right click and hit delete and just remove those. If you don't have Excel, you can use Google Sheets, which is free. Just download the file, upload it into Google Sheets. I'm not going to show how to do that here, but that's the other tool if you don't have Excel, and you should be good. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so when you log into Insights for the first time, you're going to have this page here. And what I have going right now is I just have just a page here where I've got some workbooks I've been working on. And on the side here you can see the models, the analytic models. These are workbooks I've done. These are models I've made. Here's the data sets. Just a couple things in there. Pages. These are going to be things where you can go ahead and show off just different like data sets on the front end, right? And then themes. This is where you can actually like make a theme that you're running yourself. It's kind of a custom thing. Wouldn't really worry about that for the time being, but what we're going to do to start out is we're just going to make a new workbook. I actually have one just sitting right here, and I'm going to pop that open, and I'm going to actually show you an example of what we're going to make right here. So this is eventually a version of what we're going to make. I'm going to show you kind of how to get here in the next couple of videos. We're going to be there. So for the time being, just make a new workbook, and if you got the crop data that that you've gotten from me, or if you've got another data set, as long as it has coordinates, you can bring it in. It would be nice if it had lots of different columns, lots of different stuff. Like a rich data set would be really great. Preferably over like the United States or a couple of different countries would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be pretty good. So yeah, anyhow, in the next video we'll run it into workbooks. So once you've gotten into your account and you've made a new workbook, we'll have an untitled workbook, and we'll be ready to add some data. So I actually have some data that I'm going to bring over for you all, and I'm going to drop it right in here. And this is going to be our climate data, and I'm just going to go to this upload file area right here, drop that in there, hit add, and there we go. You see nothing has happened yet. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and be like, this is a crop analysis. We'll just give that a name right there, and we'll just save that. So we got our progress thus far, although not that much. And then at least we got it saved, right? And then we're going to go and we're going to click the three dots on our data set here. We can see all the columns right here. This shows like what sort of data we can work with. We should have already looked at the Excel sheet to make sure that this is a good rich data sheet. You're going to want your lat and long. This is like lat and long average, because this is specifying like I think the middle of a crop's field. So you can't give the coordinates to every single stalk of corn. So that's how they set up the data. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and enable location on this. So just click the three dots and hit enable location. And then we're going to want to do coordinates because we have coordinates in our data set. If you didn't have coordinates and you just had address, you could run that. And geography is a whole other thing. So we're just going to go through and make sure that we have our proper fields for X and Y set up. And then we are going to make sure our spatial reference is the one we want. This one is fine. Don't really stress too much about this. Generally, this will give you accurate geographical representation pretty much regardless of what. And the default one's pretty good. So we're just going to go ahead and run that. I'm just going to let that load there. And here in a minute, we should be able to take this data and drag and drop it into the middle area. And we should be able to make one of three things. So we should be able to make a table, a chart, or a map. And I'm just going to go ahead and show that with the map, we do in fact have points on a map right there. And we're going to go ahead and if I wanted to turn this into a chart, we could do that. I'm just going to show the examples. If we wanted to show just a table, right? And this is just the crop counts, right? So this is automatically detecting probably your most important chart. This chart's not probably going to make a lot of sense. Well, actually, no, it does. But this, just showing some different examples of things you can do. KPI 77, all right? Some of these are not exactly 100% like what you're going to want, right? So you're going to want to try to check these out a little bit more. So we're going to go with a map first, and then maybe we'll do a chart over here, right? And the good thing about these is you can move them around, and you can make them bigger or smaller, so you can have a layout, because ultimately this is what your layout's going to be for your end customer or whoever's using and interacting with this dashboard. So you kind of want to have things nice and spread out, and we're going to say, we can give a name to this. We're going to say card 1 is map of crops, and card 2 is chart of crops. Cool, so that's the basics of getting started with this. We've got, over here on the side, we just have our bar chart made right here, and we're just going to roll on to some more features here. We're going to show you how to customize these things and how to do a little bit more with them. I just want to show you the starting point of what you're going to want to accomplish when you first get your workbook started. So see you in the next video. Alright, so now that we have our data spatially displayed on this map, and we have a chart here, which once again we just do by just dragging our data set in there to create one of those things, a map, a table, or a chart. We can go ahead and we can start doing some cool visualizations with it. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and actually change the base map on there, and the base map is just the base level imagery that we're going to have on the map, and I like to have it dark so that I can have a good contrast between what I'm seeing and all the labels and the actual symbology of this layer. So what I'm going to do right here is show you how to make a heat map real quick. So what we're going to do is when the data's in your map, you're going to have it over here. You're going to go to the options, and then we're going to style it by the coordinates, which is the location of where it's at, and then we're going to go ahead and do a heat map, right? So heat map is going to show us where there is more distribution of where the data is. So this is just showing that we got more data near Paraguay and than we did in Argentina or Chile, right? Or the distribution is more intense right here. And if we zoom out to the other continents, we can see worldwide on a larger scale kind of where that falls. And so this could be helpful for a couple of different things, but let's go ahead and check out a couple different ways to show this. So if we go to location, single symbol, we're just going to play around with this real quick. So I'm going to go to crop, and I'm going to see what that gives me. And this is kind of cool because now I can get a different color of symbol. So rice is blue, and cotton is pink, and wheat is this like burgundy color. So that's pretty cool. That is definitely something that we can use to display this data in a different way. And yeah, with bins, that's not something that I necessarily have messed with too much, so I'm not going to say that is something to do. But it's a heat map and location, and modifying right here the style by is pretty cool. You can also do like right here the nation code, right? So we're going to have, I think we're going to be able to style by let's see, unique symbols. There we go. Symbol type, unique symbols by nation code or state code. I'm trying to get it to show by, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So these are colored differently. So I guess for some reason this data set, oh, country code, that might work. Okay, cool. So every country should maybe have their own color now, or county code. So anyhow, there's a lot of different things you can do with this. Just mess around with your data set, because every data set's going to be different, and you're pretty much just gonna want to just mess with that and see what you can get. There's all sorts of stuff in this data that I have right here. I like to mess with, since it's the clearest one, the different crops, and that is what I'm going to use to show off this data right here. So yeah, in the next video we'll get into some other stuff, so see you then. Alright, so we're going to get into manipulating some of our chart data, and we're going to talk about how the chart works in conjunction with the map. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to delete this to show you how to remake it. So just drag your data in there, drop in for a chart, and the first thing you're going to get is basically just going to auto detect a field that is significant. In this case, they just happen to pick the crop type. Okay, we can definitely change that, modify that, and do stuff with that. But I'm going to show you what we're going to want to do. This is showing right now our entire data set, right? So we have crop data from Australia, Africa, South America, right? So one thing I just want to point out when we land right here, if I click on the crop type, like in the chart, it'll interact with me on the map. So as I'm clicking on these different types, because I've made the symbology unique to the crop type, I'm actually able to click on these values and see it, which is kind of cool, because this is getting into what it looks like when we actually interact with the data and how that looks and it feels, right, to our user and to us currently, because we're kind of playing that part right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just take this card right here, and I'm going to say crop in South America. So crops in South America. All right, there we go. Cool. And then I'm going to filter that, and I'm going to go ahead and filter by. So this is going to filter all of the crop names. All right, and all the counts of those crops, but then it's going to filter by location. So when we hit by location, it's going to check that location column, and it's going to see, hey, what do you have here? So what I like to do is just unselect all, and then just go through and select the ones that I want to filter by. So I'm just going to go through and get some of the South American countries, and Uruguay. All right, I'm going to apply that. And then now what we have is we actually just have crops in South America. So we can see what we have, all these here. But the one thing we're looking at is these aren't really sorted. I kind of have rice and barley are kind of my leaders, followed by wheat, sorghum, soybean, and maize. So maybe I want to just display this in descending, right, or ascending, or A to Z, right? But generally you do like highest to lowest, right? So that's really cool, because we can take our map and we can kind of focus it right on this area, and we can have this area, this page right here, just be South America, right? And then we can go and we can make like another page for like Australia, and then we can do a filtered crop distribution in Australia in the same way, and that'll be, well, we'll go ahead and we'll do that right now. So it'll be like map of crops in South America. All right. So I'm going to do that, and this will just show where what types are. And I'll go ahead and make a new page. And then that'll force me to bring in the data set again. So I'm just going to grab that, bring it in. Alright, there it is. I'm going to enable location. I'm going to run that. When that comes in, I'm going to make a map. I'm going to set the base map. Then I'm going to add a chart. And looks like that's done. So we got a map. I'm going to bring in that base map that we were talking about here. Take dark gray canvas. I'm going to set that on Australia. Alright, and you can definitely follow along here if you got an account. If not, it's fine too. So we're going to go ahead, style by crop and unique symbols, excuse me. And we're going to have that layout of Australia right there. And that's done. We're going to go ahead and say map of crops in Australia. Cool. And then we're going to take the same data, we're going to take it and drop it into this chart. Then we're going to filter this by location. And then we're going to go through here, and so we got Queensland and Victoria and Western Australia. I'm going to apply those. And then we can see that distribution. I think I got everywhere in Australia. Forgive me if you're from Australia and I missed somewhere. Pretty sure I got. This is not like not too familiar, but let's go ahead and make these charts a little bit bigger. Maybe put them side by side. And as you can see, if I want to click over here on the wheat, I can see the wheat is all the way over there in Perth, and there's some in Brisbane and Melbourne. There's kind of some all over. I click on oats or corn or broom millet. I'm not actually sure what that is. It sounds like a grain to me. And then I can take this and I could say Australia. And I'll go ahead and just look back over here. I'll do kind of the same thing. Just gonna make this a little bit bigger. Smooth that out. And here we go. Now we have some tabs that are actually showing the data set across different areas, so we can kind of see this. So this might be a way that somebody wants to have their data represented, and this is sort of moving into the area where we're showing off actually like how to represent the different parts of the data set instead of just all of it at once. So we're kind of cutting it up right now. So yeah, I'm going to save that just to make sure I got a progress saved there, and yeah, in the next video we'll show you some more stuff. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into working some more with these charts. We're going to do some things with the aesthetics of the charts, and we're also going to add in some more data sets. So what I got right here on the side, actually, if you just hit the drop down on your data, it's pretty cool. You can take what you've got over here and you can add it in as an additional piece of data that you can add in a chart. So like right here, I've got the crop type in this area, and I filtered it by Australia only, and I've got the map on Australia only. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the precipitation average and bring that in a chart. And we're going to take this, make it a little bit smaller, and move this up so that I can kind of see this a little bit better in our frame here. And then you can see all three charts work together. If I'm hitting this precipitation average, it'll filter the map, and it'll filter this chart up here. So some clicking along here is kind of cool, right? We got something going on. But some of this stuff looks a little bit out of, it's not exactly the way that I'd want it to look like, just by my preference, right? So over here, if you click on the three dots, you can get the card settings. So I like to take these and I like to do sort of like a dark theme with them. You can take the background color and drop it to something like this. I think I picked this one, so like the third one from the top. And the foreground color, make that white. That'll give us this nice black or dark theme look. And the border color, you can also change that. sort of mess with that and see where that is, what that's going to look like. Let's leave it like it is for now. You can make the border a little bit bigger. Oh, there we go. So now when I click off of it, see, now it's got this like nice white border. It's not actually exactly what I want, so I'm going to maybe take it and just do a border like that, 5 pixels. Cool. Alright, so that's pretty nice. So let's go ahead and take this label right here, and we'll just change this to say crops in Australia. And right here, we'll do the same thing on this. Pretty much all of your charts are going to have a similar thing you're going to be able to accomplish with those. Background color, foreground color. Now you can see we have this up here is changed. Let's see if we can do some more stuff here. Let's get the border. Let's do that 5 pixel border with this. I think this is the color I picked on the other one. Yeah, there we go. So now we're starting to get a nice theme here. So this is really cool, right? Also, another thing we can do is, you see, like when I click on something over here, like the sorghum, it'll show only the sorghum dots on the map, like the symbols over here. But what I want to do too, and this is something you can kind of use, if you enable cross filtering on your map, then it'll show only those, and it'll kind of move over to show all those ones that are in frame, right? So this is something that kind of gets rid of the rest of the noise, right? So this is pretty cool, right? Kind of cleans the map up a little bit. You won't be able to see everything else, but if you only want to see what you're clicking on, it's pretty useful. So and the map snapping to those specific areas is really cool too, and I like that. Let's go ahead in here and change this one as well. Also, one thing we can do too is we can edit the labels. So this right here, so this is we're just going to say crop count, and over here is going to be on the side crop name, right? So now it looks, oh, that did not work. Yeah, crop name. So now it looks like a real chart, right? It doesn't look like all messy with all those underscores and everything. And then I think one thing we can actually do as well is, let me try to find it. Yeah, let me sort ascending. Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. And then we'll go over here. There we go. Cool. So on this card, I can do the same thing. Modify all of its labels and bring it over so that it only shows crops with a certain precipitation average. But yeah, that is how you can do that. We did just kind of slide over here to South America real quick on the filter on accident, so I think I need to do a couple more changes to get that to be all the way where we want it to be. But yeah, there we go. Cool. Alright, so in the next video we get into some other stuff. Alright, so now that we've gotten all of our charts looking aesthetically pleasing, we filtered them out and we've given a couple different pieces of the data and put those in charts so that we can view those nicely and filter through those different things there, and we can have this. This is kind of a working product for us. But one thing I want to hit on before I get to sharing and publishing this is that every data set is going to be different. So there's a lot of different ways to display data, but on each of these panes, whether it's like the charts or the map, on the bottom right hand corner there's the action button, and in there they have this really easy guide to displaying the data and what sort of things you can do. So there's all sorts of different things you can do to answer different questions, right? So finding answers like, how is this data distributed? How is this data related? What's near this data, right? Like if you have multiple data sets in, maybe you could bring in, since this is agricultural, you could bring in what rivers or bodies of water are nearby these crops. Maybe that will have some relation to this data. And then you can also see how it's changed, like over time or something like that, right? And there's a lot of different options for you to view this data and display it. So I encourage you to really play around with these. And there's not any one of these is specifically better than the other. It just involves asking yourself, what am I trying to answer? What I want to show people, and what do I want to do with that? So this is a really in-depth and faceted thing here. This action button, right? You can do a lot of stuff with it. Definitely check it out and play around with it. Try to answer those questions that you're trying to answer with your data, because that's where you should be doing when you're doing this data analysis. That should be the point of what you're doing there. So anyhow, that is all on that. And next I'm going to get into showing you how to share. Alright, so now we're going to look at how to actually share this out into a product that we can actually have people interact with. So what we're going to want to do with that is just go back to our main page. I have unsaved changes, but that's okay. And then on your workbooks, you're going to want to go over to the share button. You're just going to want to click on that, and then you can select whether you want to share that just outside of you, right? Is that your organization? Is that everyone, right? If you share it with everyone, then it's something public that can be viewed all over the place, right? So most of the time you'll have an organization like your company or your whatever your organization is, and you will be able to share it with them, and they'll be able to come and see it, and that'll kind of make it private in a way to where only the people who are part of that group can see it. So that's really up to you, and that's ultimately the end of the course. That's what we're going to do. We're going to find data, bring it in, display it, analyze it, and then we're going to share it out. And so that's that. So thanks for hanging out on the course, and definitely we'll be back with some more advanced level insights stuff here in the future. But until then, see you later.